So for loops are how you're going to be iterating through sets in the Python world. So again, with sets, we have lists, we have dictionaries, we have sets, we have tuples, we have a few other types out there. Mainly when you're doing a for loop is you're going to be going through lists and you're going to be going through dictionaries. Now iterating through a list is very simple. So we have a list here, so my underscore list equals square bracket, and so we have three names here, Bob, Sue, and Phil. Now if all we want to be able to do is iterate through that list, basically print out those names, we can use the for loop. So for x. So this x here can be whatever variable name that you want. So x is just easy, especially when you have some pretty simple code. But you could say for name in my list, for student in my list, so on and so forth. So for x in the list, colon, and then you're going to do something with that value. So x, this is the only thing that has to be the same, and we're simply going to print out what the names are. So for value in list, print out that value. If we go and we hit run, then we can see we print out Bob, Sue, and Phil there, and that's really all there is to it. Again, with this, it could be something like name, so for name in my list, I'm going to print it out. I'm going to get the exact same response as we did before, because the only important thing here is that these two things equal. Now again, with for loops, you can iterate things through things such as sets and tuples. So let's say if I put this here, if this was a tuple for some reason, I could also iterate through that, but generally you're only going to be iterating through lists and dictionaries, but you can iterate through other sets too. Now what about if you have a dictionary? So in a dictionary you have a key and a value, right? So this is kind of like that student list before, but now let's say we have the ages of student here. Bob is 12, Sue is 14, and Phil is 11. How do we access both what's called the key and the value here, right? So with that, we're going to be using the .items function, or the items function. And what this does is it pulls out both the key and the value from a dictionary so that you're able to access them. So we have my dict equals, right, the students, then for key, comma, value in my dict.items. So again, these are simple variable names that you can change at will. So it could be for name, age in dict items, whatever else, right? For student, I don't know, years on earth, whatever, right? These can be whatever names you want them to be. And then we're simply going to use the F string down here to print the value of key, and then we're going to do hyphen hyphen the value of the value. So Bob 12, Sue 14, Phil 11. So we go through and we iterate through this loop, and that's what we can see here. So Bob hyphen hyphen is 12, Sue hyphen hyphen is 14, Phil hyphen hyphen is 11. And so that's all you do to be able to get access to both the keys and the values. You use the items function here, and then you use the key. So you have a key variable name here, comma, the value variable name here, and then you access those values using those variable names as you iterate through the loop. So that's all there is to the for loops. This is incredibly simple. Where things get far more complicated is when you start doing things like if-else statements within the loop, or you do nested loops. You can have a loop, and then you can have a loop within that loop, and a loop within that new loop, and then an if-else statement within that loop that then goes to another loop. Right, that's where it all gets complicated. The for loops on themselves are incredibly simple. It's you add all the additional insanity.